appreciate it. It means a lot to me. Welcome back, as I say, to another episode of Industry Standard. I'm here live in Montreal. I look out at the faces, and I'm glad you're all here. And it's really going to be a wonderful, wonderful show with my guest, who I'm so honored, who's going to be here, Howie Mandel. And as you know, I want to thank you all for coming, and I want to thank you all out there for being a part of this show. I get so excited about it, so emotional. I feel like I'm really emotional now because you get invited back to Montreal for a second time in 3 years, and that's all you want if you're at your job or whatever you do for a living. You want to make sure that people want you. They want to have you here. They want you around, and it means a lot. And whatever job you're in, that's the goal. You want to make yourself valuable. You want to be of value to whoever you're working for, even if you're working for yourself. And I think of Howie Mandel, and I do get emotional when I think about Howie Mandel, because I think it's something that I've said on the podcast. When I was at Boston University for the first time, I went there, and I didn't know anything about anybody or anything. And my first class was in this huge auditorium. The biggest class I ever had was maybe 20 people. And I get there, and there's this curmudgeonly old, it looked like Burl Ives as the teacher. He had a lavalier mic, didn't work, and there were 1,500 people there, and it's crackling, and he can't figure out what's going on. But I remember two things he said that relate to things today. He said, there's two things that make a person happy. Does anybody know what they are? And I was like dumbfounded. I'm just shocked that I'm there. And he said, fruitful labor, labor that you love, that puts food on the table and a roof over your head. And reciprocal love is the second thing. And if you have two of those things together, you're going to be happy and fulfilled, and you're going to have a wonderful, wonderful life. And I'm about to introduce a guy who's been married for about 35 years, has had the same manager for about 35 years, and has had a career that has been extraordinary for probably over 35 years. So it's the stability that oftentimes can help you get to the next level. But what we're going to find out about Howie Mandel is the fact that he didn't always have stability. He didn't always have the best opportunities. And he had a lot of things that went against him in his life, and many things that he's still dealing with. But I think the thing also as a performer, if anybody's out there as a performer, or even if you're in any job, what you need to figure out is what to do in your job that is going to be in a situation that doesn't telegraph what you're going to do. And this is Howie's biggest strength. Because when Howie started doing stand-up, the greatest thing about him and the greatest thing about any comedian that you will ever see is they never let the audience get ahead of their joke. Whenever you see any kind of entertainment that's extraordinary, what's extraordinary about it is you don't know what's coming. I mean, how many romantic comedies have you seen where 5 minutes in the movie and you know, oh yeah, he's gonna meet her, he's gonna fall in love with her, she's not gonna want him, she's gonna break up with him, they're gonna get in a fight, and at the end of the movie they're gonna get together and kiss, and then there's the wide shot. But with the great comedians that you see, like Howie Mandel, from the very, very beginning when he started, the very, very beginning, he never telegraphed a joke. You know why? Because if you telegraph a joke, the audience understands that they're smarter than you. They know more than you. And they need to be taken away from their lives when you perform for them. That's what they're looking for. And the greatest comedians you will ever see, and the greatest musicians, the greatest bands, even the greatest magicians, it is like a magic trick, because the artist puts on a show that blows you the fuck away. You have no idea where they're going with the joke, the material, or how it's going, and that's how you get to the next level. And from the very beginning, Howie Mandel did this. And the last thing I want to say is that whatever you're doing, I love this concept. You have to use all your cylinders in your engine. Howie Mandel is like, he's the greatest example of this. This guy is an actor. He's a stand-up. He's a host. He does reality shows. He does prank shows. He created an animated show that's immensely popular. He's a judge. He writes books. I mean, is there anything that this guy doesn't do except shake your hand? It's amazing. So what I want to say to you all is that if there's anything to be garnered from today, is that if you can figure out a way to have some kind of stability in your life despite what you're going through and put it together, it's going to be a great thing to drive forward everything else. If you're in a situation where whatever you do in your job, you don't telegraph what you're doing to your boss and you always exceed all of their expectations and pretend that they have the highest fucking expectations, you're going to be in a better position to win. And then if you use every cylinder in your engine and untap all of your potential, you're going to have the kind of career, or at least hope to have the kind of career that Howie Mandel has.
Here we go in 3, 2.
I got everybody pregnant with Barry Katz and semen.
I'm not comfortable with the tone this is taking.
If you're undeniable, you will not be denied.
If you want to be successful in showbiz, and you get yourself a Jew white manager like Barry Katz.
Being a manager is just turning no's into yeses.
Creating holy shit moments. Undeniable.
You fucking firing me up, Katz.
I love this man.
Is there anything else I should know?
You're on. What? Now I'm on the air.
Barry Katz, back in the house.
Let's do this.
All right, welcome back to another episode of Industry Standard with me, Barry Katz, here live in Montreal. I am so happy, so excited. I see a lot of faces, a lot of familiar faces, a lot of faces I don't know, and we're going to have a great time today. I want to spend as much time with Howie as possible, so I didn't go through one of my marathon cold opens that basically put my audiences in some kind of induced coma. And now I'm going to introduce Howie. I have a long introduction, so get comfortable because this guy's had an amazing career. I'm so excited about this. It means so much to me. I said something to somebody the other day. I said, you don't ask, you don't get. Everybody's heard that. You don't ask, you don't get. But in 3 years, I never asked Howie Mandel to do this show, and I've known him a long time. And maybe I thought to myself, my God, he's had such a long career, I can't, how can I ask him? He's not. And I reach out, and literally within 30 minutes, his people get back to me and say, he's in. And it was like, oh my God, it's like this is such a great example of that. So for all of you as well, please, whatever you want, just ask for it. Just ask for it over and over again. And what's the worst thing that can happen? You're in the same position you were before, and you don't have it. So just ask for whatever it is, especially with people who you know and who you revere and you respect. All right, ladies and gentlemen, please welcome Howie Mandel. Can I just say one more? I just want to say one more thing.
You missed a lunch I had in 2011 at Deli in the San Fernando Valley.
I always get shit on by the long introduction, but I love to have the people know what they've done. I know you know what you've done, but it's nice to hear, and it's nice the audience to hear.
It is nice the audience to hear. You're so Jewish. You've negotiated words. You've taken words out of your head. It's nice the people to hear. That's a very Jewish thing. It's nice for the people to hear.
Well, you are Jewish.
I am Jewish.
Yes.
Well, that's the only thing that's not in your introduction.
It was coming.
You missed the bris.
It was coming. I was going to go for the
No, it started right away. One of the first performances I had was bris.
Really?
Well, I would imagine most Jewish men have had that performance.
Yes.
That's not much of a, it's amazing to me, it's always been amazing, and we're not here to talk about Jewish heritage, that's a celebration. That it is, and people show up and they eat and they dine and they're invited to the cutting of the end of a man's dick. That's like my non-Jewish friends, because I have, now I have grandchildren. So you invite them over, you want to come over Sunday, what are you doing? It's a bris, what is that? Don't worry, we'll have cake, we'll have coffee, it'll be fun, there's going to be about 100 people there, you'll have a great time. What is it? Well, we're slicing my son's dick. Why is that a party? Only amongst Jews.
What's scary is then they bring
Anyway, back to the introduction. Don't ask me. Finish the introduction.
Can I just finish one thing?
Are you
mind?
serious?
Yes.
I was kidding.
No, I'm going to do it.
This is ridiculous.
It is ridiculous.
Okay, go ahead.
But I just want to say this.
Yeah, well,
Because
it's nice for them to hear. You're right.
it is nice to hear. Can I just do the last tiny bit?
Who am I to say no?
Currently, Howie's serving as a judge for his 7th consecutive season on NBC's popular summer talent competition series, America's Got Talent. And he also has a star on the the Hollywood Walk of Fame. And according to me, Comedy Central and everybody here is one of the 100 greatest comedians of all time. Please welcome Howie Mandel.
Thank you.
I have so much.
This is just broad. I notice there's cameras here, but most people just listen to this, right?
Yes.
So we won't start the interview until the crowd sits. I'm on a listening audience. There's no reason to stand. Please sit down. Please. This is amazing.
When was your first standing ovation?
My first standing ovation?
First stand-up?
You know, I'm for stand-up?
Yes.
I've yet to have one. I don't think I've ever had. I've had people, when I played the Catskills, throughout, like in the middle of the act, people would stand and leave. I don't know if that's an ovation as much as it's a standing goodbye. And I was told in the Catskills, because when you perform in the Catskills, you're part of the weekend. In fact, your billing is on the menu. You know, it says pot roast, soup, Howie Mandel, and in the room that you play, there are, it's a room not unlike this, bigger than this, but there's 5 doors at the back, and I was really upset at the fact that people, and they said it wasn't because I was not good. It's, a lot of people are tired. So they would get up in the middle of the show and leave, but he said I did good because 1 or 2 doors were open at one time. When there's a 5-door opening, as people are screaming out, that's considered bad. That is the level of, so that's the Catskills.
And for those of you who don't know, these Catskill gigs, they were like Grove Singers, the Concord, and the hardest thing for a comedian to do, which Howie probably puts in his contracts, when you perform at a venue that's not a comedy club, you don't want anybody eating. You don't want plates, knives, anything. You can just imagine a few people banging a plate or something. Imagine 1,000 people cutting steak and fish and...
I've learned in my career that these kind of, for me personally, I know most comics don't like it, these kind of distractions become my act. So I've learned through all this, you were saying comics don't like to play in places that aren't traditionally comedy rooms. I think we, as an industry, are put in places that are not comedy rooms. That's what they set up for us, because I think that they think that, it's just a guy talking, so I don't have to have a comedy room. So you either adapt to that or you become successful enough where you can demand the room be set up exactly how you need it to be set up. And I'm someplace in between. I don't mind doing something that is kind of out of context and kind of wrong. I'm sitting here with I'm looking at my agent, Steve Levine of ICM. If you need to book me.
I love Steve Levine.
There's Steve Levine.
One of the greatest agents of all time, personal appearances.
He is, and we've been friends and agents for decades.
But long-term relationship that you have.
Yes, but what I was going to say is, as I look out to him, like he'll call me. He goes, "Listen, I got something for you in Cleveland." But I go, "Great, I'll do it." And it fits in the thing. He goes, "But let me just." And it's always like, "Let me just what?" So it's never just they want you to show up and do a show. This one is going to be, this is a fundraiser. I go, it's okay, I can do a fundraiser. And he goes, it's in a synagogue. I go, that's okay. You're on the pulpit. You'll be followed by the choir of children with, the Jewish children with Down syndrome will be singing 9 songs. Then you go on, they want you to do 5 minutes. Then the rabbi, then you have to stop your act. The rabbi's going to do a little fundraiser. Then there is somebody who just died in the congregation and they want to do a eulogy. Then they want you to do your closing act. If you can stay for another 2 minutes, they would like to do a meet and greet with the blind members of the congregation. They'll put you up against the wall because they need to come and feel you. There's nothing ever. How many calls? Steve is sitting there. I'm telling you, not 2 weeks goes by with, I got you a job. It's this much money. But, you know, and as a comedian, personally me, and I think each of us as human beings or individual, I've learned to kind of endure, enjoy, or sometimes, you know, I don't know if Steve has found the limit to what I can,
What's the greatest hell gig story you have in your career?
I have many, but once I got St. Elsewhere was, you know, the first big network show, having done, you know, talk shows and HBO specials. I got on St. Elsewhere, and St. Elsewhere catapulted my credibility to another, because I'm on a weekly network primetime dramatic show. I got a call, not from Steve Levine, but I got a call and I got asked, would you consider doing a private party in somebody's house? Talking about being in a place and I said, nah, you know what? No, I don't want to be in, you know, in the living room of somebody's house with 9 people. No. And then they said, but would you consider it at a price? And as I said, everybody has a price, you know, so, well, what price? They go, you tell us a price.
Thank you for doing this show for this price.
Yeah. Yes, there's no price. This is priceless. This podcast is priceless. But anyway, they spewed out some money and I said, I would do it for, you know, I don't want to do it, but for this amount. And it was more than what most people make a year. It was more than I was making on the series. It was more than I've ever been paid before. And without hesitation, faster than I got back to you in doing this podcast, they go, okay. And I go, okay. And now I'm worried, you know? So I say, cash. And they say, okay. And I said, I want the cash now. Is there any way you can get the cash now? This was for the following Saturday. They go, okay, how do we do it? And I didn't want to tell them where I live, so I said, drop the cash off at the Comedy Store on Sunset. And within a half hour, I get a call from the Comedy Store on Sunset that somebody's dropped off. And I go to Sunset, and there are piles of cash, which I take. And I go, oh my God. And this was a private party that was going to take place that Saturday in Benedict Canyon. And that Saturday comes around and I say to my wife, would you like to come? I'm going to do this. They only want me to do a half hour at a house in Benedict Canyon. Would you like to come? She goes, nah, you go. So I go and drive up Benedict Canyon. And I'm thinking, like, oh my God, you know what? Now I'm on network TV. There are stalkers. Like maybe somebody is, maybe this is like, there's not a good happy ending. So I'm driving up the canyon. And as it gets darker and darker. And as I get to the top of the canyon, in the middle of the road, a beautiful, scantily clad woman stops me in front of my car and flags down the car, and I go, oh my God, you know, maybe I'm about to save somebody from a horrible... She comes over to the window and she goes, are you Howie Mandel? And I said, yes. She goes, this is the party. I go, what do you mean this is the party? She goes, just park your car here, you're a surprise. The person whose party it is, you are his favorite comic. This is a surprise. I go, okay. So I pull over and she signals me in through these hedges. I go through hedges and I'm in the back of this palatial mansion in the pool area, and I could hear some hubbub in the house, in the pool house. There's like people, so it's kind of a celebration, not a big celebration. I think I was exaggerating when I thought I don't want to do a party for 9 people because it sounded like 7. So she leads me into this room, which turns out to be a very small bathroom off the pool house. It's a toilet and a sink and me. And she goes, okay, when they introduce you, you're surprised. When they introduce you, come out this door and they're in that room for the party. And I go, okay. And I'm standing in the bathroom going, what the into, and the door opens that I'm supposed to go out of, and a guy comes in, and he starts pissing. He's pissing in the toilet. And I'm saying, and he pays no attention to me. I'm telling you, this room is maybe 6 by 6 feet. There's no way. I could not press myself close enough to the wall with my face, because I'm also thinking, I don't want to get piss on me, and I don't want to ruin the surprise, you know? So I'm trying to be a good employee. I was paid, and I'm always trying to be a good Jew. But it was more about not getting piss on me. So I'm pressed against the wall, and the guy pisses, flushes, doesn't wash his hands, and leaves. That's the worst part of the story. The fact that I was standing there. So anyway, what a weird crowd. Within minutes, I hear, ladies and gentlemen, please welcome Howie Mandel. It was a much shorter introduction than Barry Cass. I didn't hear people mumbling on the outside in 1979. But anyway, I walk out into this room and I'm ready to start. I open the door and I stand there and my jaw drops. There are maybe 9 people, maybe 7 people. There was an odd number of people. No one, except the guy who took the piss, has pants on. Everybody is in the weirdest, oddest position of fucking and sucking and doing things in positions that I have never seen before. The guy who apparently I am the surprise for is in mid blowjob. He's getting blown. He is hunched over. He looks at me, hunched over, can barely make, and he's going, do the Bobby voice. Do the Bobby voice. And I'm going, and he's going, He's not enjoying the Bobby voice. There are people blowing loads all over the couch, all over the. What the f is it? It's like an orgy. It's a orgy. As it turns out, it's that guy's bachelor party. Okay, so I do 20 minutes of the most, I don't mind. People say, I had them peeing in their pants. I had people coming and I didn't have them. They had that doing, and I shut up. I finished. I don't know that I got any reaction to my performance, and I left. And it was just, and I'm thinking the whole time, I asked my wife to sit in. Thank God she said no. And I drove down, and I was like almost in, as I tell you this story, I still feel the post-traumatic stress of this performance. But it turns out about 2 weeks later, I'm in the Valley, in the mall, in the Sherman Oaks Galleria. And some nice lady comes up to me and she goes, Howie Mandel. And I go, yeah. She goes, you want to hear a coincidence? My husband told me that you performed at his friend's bachelor party 2 weeks ago. And I see this guy, who now I didn't really recognize because he was dressed like about 100 yards behind, going, and I was hired to be a fucking alibi so that they could, when the wives, when they went home and said, what was at the back? Well, we watched Howie Mandel, which was true. But it was just, they couldn't just say they were getting fucked and sucked. I was a fucking alibi that I was worth a fortune. They paid me. But as a comedian, it's a great story to tell on your podcast. But it wasn't fun. It wasn't the perfect setup, but it prepares you for whatever distractions throughout a show.
Awesome. All right, conversely.
Conversely? What is the opposite of that? Children's birthday party.
I'm not really as educated as you, but the greatest performance you ever had where you walked off stage and it was like...
It was before I walked off stage. I'll tell you, the best moment I ever had, listen, and maybe you'll go into it, or you already did probably in your introduction, but this whole career...
I'm never going to live that.
This whole career is, such a surprise. It's such a 180-degree turn from where I believed I would be. But in 1987, I sold out 2 shows at Radio City Music Hall in New York City. And, as a kid, I never even had been to New York. and there were 2 shows in one night. And I remember being in my dressing room at Radio City Music Hall. Radio City holds maybe 6,000.
6,000, so that's 12,000 people.
Yeah, so there was like the 8:30 show and the 10:30 show. I had finished the 8:30 show, so 6,000 people were streaming out onto 7th Avenue, and 7,000 people were coming in, and you could look out the window onto the street from the dressing room, and they had cordoned off the street for traffic, and cops were helping the traffic go by, and I watched, conversely, people leaving, and people coming, like 12,000 people in the street for fucking Howie Mandel. And I was just looking out the window, and I was with my wife and my family, I went, look at this. Look at this, from the kid that didn't have, I didn't have friends when I was a kid, and I was pretty lonely. I have a great upbringing, great parents and a great family, but, socially I was, marred by mental health issues. And just to look out the window in New York City, a city that I had only seen in movies and on television, and 12,000 people are in the street who have made it a point to come see everything that I've ever been punished for, expelled for, left alone for. It's not, even today as I tell you this story, it's unbelievable. It doesn't seem real, and every single waking moment I think I'm gonna wake up and this is all gonna be a dream, because it is dreamlike. So it's not the moment on stage, it's the fact that people show up. And you talked in your introduction about, you calling, and I said yes within 30 minutes. I said yes as soon as I got the call. Probably took 30 minutes for my people to get back to you. For the most part, I say yes right away. I'm just so thrilled that anybody wants me anywhere, that anybody wants to join me, that wants to come see me, that wants to come laugh with me, that wants to hire me, that wants me to show up. I mean, I can't believe it. That's so, and you do have a theme here, conversely different than how I felt as a child.
Yeah, and I want to go way, way back now, and I want to talk about that. So let's go way back and talk about where you grew up, what it was like with your family, the economic dynamic there, if they were well off, if they weren't, and how you started moving towards being the entrepreneur that you were at an early age. And what the audience doesn't know, if they haven't listened to the podcast, you met your manager that you have now, Michael Rotenberg, when you were a kid, and you still have...
We've been best friends since we were 14.
It's amazing. So take our audience through that and tell us what the first inspiration was after that for you to want to be in this business.
Well, I didn't. The truth of the matter is that, I have a great family. I grew up lower middle class, Jewish suburb of Toronto. And nobody had any connection whatsoever to show business. I suffer, as we know now, but I'm 60 years old. At that time, people didn't really go to therapy. Even now, there's a stigma, and that's my soapbox, to kind of make mental health part of the curriculum. But so I felt very.
First of all, I just want to share. You are. I just can't even believe you're 60. You look. I mean, you're in such great.
I look great on every podcast. I look so. That's why I say yes to podcasts, because I am so youthful on the radio.
Do you remember what 60 used to look like when you were growing up?
No, because as a child I wasn't friends with a lot of 60-year-olds.
I'm sorry, keep going.
But I just I talk about being 60. You look, you reach a point in your, people hopefully at some point in your life go, hey, you look good, or hey, nice shirt, or nice, but you're getting older when whatever compliment comes with a caveat. 60, you look great for your age. Nobody says, you're smart for a stupid guy. It's just, but what were we talking about, conversely? My upbringing. I did not pursue this business. So I have a severe, later in life, diagnosed ADHD. I have, as I sit here with you today, I'm medicated and I go to therapy, so I have the ability to sit, but it's really hard for me to focus. It's hard for me to communicate. I suffer from anxiety and depression and OCD. So school, a kind of uniformed curriculum where you had to sit the whole day was not really, I didn't fit that. And as a child, and I think this still goes today, you know, our whole goal is to be like everybody else, is to fit in. That's why people look at magazines to see what the latest fashion is, because you want to dress like somebody you see. You want to be part of the group. You want to, and you know, individuality is not celebrated, especially in youth. You know, and if you're different and you're quirky and you're weird, and it's not a positive, you know. And as a child, I celebrate it now, and I promote it to my children, but it certainly doesn't really help socially. So you feel very alone. To that end, I got thrown out of school. You know, you said I'm more educated than you. I don't have a GED. I did not make it through high school. I got thrown out of 3 different high schools. I didn't, and I resent that today. You know, I wish I did have an education. I voraciously, from the moment I was asked to leave school, you know, I keep my TV on 24/7, and you know, when the World Wide Web became, you know, available, I'm always searching and I'm always looking, and I try to gather as much information because I want to be educated. I want to know. I want to learn. I just can't do it in the way that you know, has been set up. This uniformed, you know, curriculum that is set up by the masses. So I was thrown out of school at 17 years old, and friends like Michael Rotenberg were going to college, you know, and I got a job in a carpet warehouse.
How did carpet warehouse work fit in with your personality?
I don't know. That's a good question. I don't have an answer to. It was a job.
No, but I mean,
but here's what happened. So I was working in the warehouse, and I noticed that the salespeople were selling, and I figured I could do that. And I wanted to meet people, and I wanted to talk to people, and selling. I learned selling. So I would see what and I said, you know, I don't have to work in the warehouse. Can I try to sell? And you know, in high school, I grew really late in life. At 17 years old, I was 89 pounds and 4'10", and I looked like a little girl. I didn't shave. In fact, the only way I could meet girls was at school, is I would stand in the girls'. This is a bad story, but I would stand in the girls' bathroom and I would brush my hair at the mirror.
In the girls' bathroom?
Yeah, they thought I was another girl, so that way I could start a conversation. Otherwise, they wouldn't approach me. But if you're brushing your hair at the mirror in the ladies' room, they'll always talk to you. And I would go, hey, nice blouse, thank you.
What happens when they find out you're a guy?
I would get hit, or I didn't know. I was so awkward. But I you know, my wife stuck around, so that's good. I've been with her for 40 years. But anyway, I'm all over the place. It's my ADD. But
no, it's fantastic.
So I learned that I could sell, but you know, and that's what they started letting me sell. And I would approach people because I looked so young, you know, but I was fearless in selling. And I learned, that's where I learned business. And I learned that, you know, my whole life I was told no. And I think most people are told no. And whether you're in show business, and if you're going to sell something, the ultimate answer that you're avoiding is no, right? Because you're not going to make money if somebody says no. So inherently, I would do everything in my power to avoid the word no. And that's how I learned, and I implement this today. So I learned by listening, and I think these are great attributes to life that I've tried to pass on to my kids. Listening is the key thing. So if somebody would walk in, I'd say, what are you looking for? You're looking for carpet. Okay, you're looking for carpet. What kind of, what is this for? I'd make them tell me, well, this is for the hallway. Oh, you're looking for carpet for the hallway. So you want something durable? Yes. So what color are you looking for? You're looking for green. You want green carpet that is durable for the hallway? Yes. And do you have a price range that you're looking at? I don't want to spend more than $9 a yard. Okay, you want durable green carpet for the hallway that isn't more than $9 a yard. Not that this is a great pitch, but if I walked over to a green, you know, industrial type carpet that was $8 a yard, it was really hard for you to say no. I go, this is what you asked for. Yeah. So let's just go here and write it up. And then, you know, and I was very forceful, and we would write it up, and I became like a top salesman, so much so that I ended up, leaving that place, hiring my own salesman, ended up with 2 locations and 24 salesmen. But I learned how I could manipulate whatever events were happening around me to kind of get yeses. And the more yeses we have, and whether you're in show business, that's our currency. Just people to say yes to us. No is not a currency. And you realize how valuable the yes is. And that's even, conversely, when you ask me to do a podcast, I will say yes. Because I don't know what this yes means. I know that it means that I'm sitting here, I'd be up in my room. I don't know who's listening to this. I don't know who heard, because I said yes, that my representation is Steve Levine, because we talked about him and they've been looking for me because they have an event that they want me to do. Yeses only translate into positive. No gets you nothing. And the problem in life is that people overthink everything. Now, if you had to think about it, I was a kid without an education who is colorblind, so carpet is not really the natural, but none of that played into it. I don't know, red, greens, I get them all mixed up, and browns, I'm colorblind, I knew nothing about carpet, and I made a really good living. The difference between your introduction and the reality is that in the mid-70s, at the end of disco, there was this burgeoning stand-up comedy, force coming. We started to see people like Freddie Prinze, on the Tonight Show, and Johnny Carson would say, this is a kid that I saw at the Comedy Store, and Catch a Rising Star was blowing up in New York, and all these places. And in Toronto, Canada, there was a club called Yuck Yucks.
Mark
Breslin, which started, and we went, I still to this day can't dance, and I don't like dancing, and I didn't go to discos, and I'm not much of a drinker. So when there was stand-up comedy, one night we went to see stand-up comedy, and Mark on stage said, and I was blown away. I had never seen young people, this raw form of entertainment where I was hearing and relating to stories that they were telling. I'd never seen stand-up comedy anywhere else but on TV. I'd never been to the Catskills. I had never seen it in a nightclub. I had never, I was a huge Don Rickles fan and Steve Martin fan and Richard Pryor, and I'd seen these people on TV and heard their records, but I'd never seen it. So when I went to Yuck Yucks, I was just in awe. And he came on after and he goes, and then on Monday nights at midnight, if you think you're funny or you have friends that you think are funny, you can get up. And the people that I was sitting with went, get up. You do it Monday. And I went, okay. So let's come back Monday night. No thought about what this would mean, what this does, in fact, so much no thought that no preparation. I didn't prepare for this podcast either. But come Monday night, we're all getting together and we go on. I love the guy in the front row who's falling asleep. I'm very soothing. You're sleeping. You're sleeping. You are. I know now. You know what I feel bad about? Not that you fell asleep during my story, that I woke you up. Because obviously, you need rest. You've had a very busy late night, a lot of things happening. Can I ask you something, sir? If you're that tired, why sit in the front row? Why? There are so many
beautiful woman next to him.
This is not SRO. This is standing room. There is plenty of seating. You could go in the back. You could take 3 seats in the back and lie across them. You could hear me. You could sleep. Why take a front row seat to sleep?
It was my introduction. I put him to sleep, not you.
No, but thank you for being here. I'll talk quieter. Thank you. Don't. So Monday night. I feel bad. Were you up late? Were you up late?
Yes.
You were up late. Who are you? You look familiar. Who are you?
Peter.
Peter. And Peter, what do you do?
I'm retired.
You're retired. Oh, so you're resting. You worked your whole life, and now you're getting a couple of. Well, that's good. What did you do, Peter?
I was a systems analyst.
A systems analyst. So all that excitement of analyzing systems. Okay, well. So anyway, I was talking to Peter is putting me to sleep. Okay, so on that Monday night, without any thought, I show up at Yuck Yucks. and I'm backstage, and I'm talking to my friend, I'm gonna go on stage. No thought, no.
You have no idea what you're going to say, not one idea.
No, I'm funny. My friend said I'm funny. I'm gonna go on. I'm funny. I'm gonna go on. So I'm standing backstage, and Mark Breslin goes, "Ladies and gentlemen, Howie Mandel." This is like a midnight or 12:30. It's April 17th, 1978 is the date. Because we went out for Chinese food, and I got a fortune cookie, and I still have it in a book, and it says, "Tonight your direction in your life is about to change," which I keep. And my wife, who was my girlfriend at the time, she kept it. I didn't even know that I took her out for Chinese, she opened it, I didn't keep it, I'm not superstitious, I didn't know anything. And I thought, still Monday night with my friends. So he goes, "Ladies and gentlemen, Howie Mandel." And I walk out, and Yak Yak's was a small club on Bay Street. It had 250 seats, maybe 50 of them were full at midnight on a Monday night. And I walk out, and the light hits me. And if you've ever been on stage in a club, I was blinded. I'd never been on a spotlight, So this light was shining on me. I couldn't see into the room. I could hear a smattering, of 50 people, but I could see the people in the front row. Most of them awake. I'm like, waiting for something. And this is the first time it hits me, oh shit, they want me to do something. How much of an idiot am I to show up, to wait till after an introduction, to realize I got nothing? So the nerves kicked in. The fear, the horror, that same nerve, which I still use the analogy today of, I love roller coasters. And I love to think that I'm being brought as close to death as you possibly can, that as you climb that hill, So backstage, from the time I said okay, was that climb of that hill, that climb of the hill. And as you hit the precipice, as you're coming over the edge, he goes, "Ladies and gentlemen, Howie Mandel." The light hits me. I look out at like 15 faces that I don't know, like strangers. My friends are sitting behind them who I can't see, who might give me comfort, but aren't giving me any comfort. And these people are waiting for something. And that is, I'm about to take that dive, that first dive of a roller coaster of my life, and I got nothing. And my nerves kick in, and when you're nervous, and I start to laugh. Because I just realized that, and I'm going, okay. And that became, and people started to giggle along with me. And I didn't understand why they were giggling. And I'm going, okay. And they're laughing. And then I start going, what? Because I don't understand what they're laughing at. And which kind of becomes a little bit contagious. And I go even further, and I go, okay, all right, okay. What? And that became my act. My act became a guy scared to death who didn't understand what anybody was laughing at, and is standing there, and my hands are flailing, and I'm going, what? And they go, that's great. When I got off stage, and I go, what? What was great? And I had nothing. But that laughter, I could feel that joy in that laughter, and we were all together in that room, and we were all nervous, and we're all just giggling and having a good time. And it was the first time I felt the warmth and the excitement and the energy that I have never felt in my life. And when I walked off stage, Mark Breslin said, "You want to come back tomorrow and do it?" And I went, "Do what?" Yes. And the next day I came back. Now I knew that I wasn't prepared, so I decided to not prepare again. And I went on, and then a couple days after that, I'm, as everybody knows now, I was a germaphobe. I had gloves in my pocket, because I don't want to touch it. And I had nothing to do, and the what was running thin, so I pulled the glove out, and then I got a glove, and then I just pulled it over my head. I didn't know, and I was breathing, and I didn't know, the fingers were going up, and people are laughing, and they're going, "This is even better." And I go, "Now I got a closing. I am f***ing writing. This is amazing. I have nothing, but they love me, and they're asking me back for more. More of what? I don't know. What? And then So then I go, there is a guy, well, you all know, Mike Binder. You know Mike Binder? He's a great comic at the time, and he became a very prolific writer and director, and he was from Detroit, and him and Dave Coulier, and came down from Detroit, and they were playing at Yuck Yucks, and I went to California on a vacation. Well, a business vacation, because I was also, besides carpet, I was very entrepreneurial. I learned, as we talked earlier, to try to get yeses from people, and the more yeses I realized, the more money I would make, and I'm all about making money. How about you? So I went down there, and under the guise of another business and a vacation, we went to the Comedy Store because and I want to point out that first time, the second time, the third time, and the fourth time on stage at Yuck Yucks, never an inkling or a thought about this being a career or something I wanted to do. This was just a fun night. Like if you guys like playing basketball and twice a week you go to the Y and you play with your friends basketball, or you like playing poker, this was a place where people of like minds, crazy, weird people who weren't like anybody else I knew, were like me, you know, the outliers were just getting together. It was this great club. I didn't care if anybody would hire me. I didn't want any money for this. I just wanted the opportunity to stand out on stage. And as somebody who grows up in middle-class Jewish suburbia, show business, it's not really a business, you know, that you could even think of, or it's real or palpable or anything. So I would be happy, and I promise you to this day, I would still be happy if I was selling you carpet, if I was selling you something, but at night or someplace or once a week, I had a place where I could drop in and kind of feel this unity with other human beings, because I think that comedy and laughter is kind of the common bond that I have with other humanity. But anyway, I go to California and I go to the Comedy Store just to see this Comedy Store.
And tell me the artists that were on that night that you remember.
It's within a 2 or 3 days span, but you know, David Letterman was the host, young guy who was a weatherman who just moved out. Nobody really knew him. I was really excited because I saw Jimmy J.J. Walker come on. His show was on. I saw
Good Time.
Yeah, Billy Crystal. Anybody who was anybody was there. You know, we would go to the Comedy Store in the main room on Monday nights. I would see, you know, she had Count Basie and his orchestra playing.
Mitzi Shore, just celebrated.
Mitzi Shore, yeah. But anyway, but that's when I was. But this first night, Mike Binder got me on stage on the amateur night, and that's when George Foster, who was doing Make Me Laugh, came up to me, and I thought, this is so cliche Hollywood.
Now, how many times had you been on stage before you did that appearance at the Comedy Store?
A couple of months, twice a week, but I would go every
So
night.
10 times, then you go on at the Comedy Store,
Yeah.
and somebody comes up to you and says, "We want you on a television."
No, are you interested in doing television? Yeah. Yeah, that's what I want to do. I want to do TV. This is so fucking Hollywood. Yeah. He goes, all right, well, come to my office tomorrow. I got a show. I'll come to your office. It's KTLA, which is a station on, go down Sunset Boulevard. I'm mesmerized by every place that I go, you know, because I'm on Sunset Boulevard, just even the street. I take a picture of the street sign, Sunset Boulevard. You've seen Sunset Boulevard, that's from the movies and it's from TV. And I go down, and this is the first time he left my name at the gate. I go into KTLA, which is a little studio, and what was great there, and what I knew, they were shooting Solid Gold. Remember Solid Gold? I love the Solid Gold dance.
Didn't Arsenio do that?
Later.
Yeah.
But this was when, was it Marilyn McCoo, or
Yeah, and
who was
Billy
the
Davis.
host of that? Was
Yeah.
it Marilyn McCoo? Billy Davis Jr.
Yeah.
Marilyn McCoo. You know, but anyway, I didn't know that. I just knew the Solid Gold dancers. I loved the top 10. I loved it. There was one, anyway, but they were shooting, where they tape fucking Solid Gold. Anyway, so I go in, and he goes, I do the show, Make Me Laugh. You have to make people laugh. This is my secretary, make my secretary laugh. So I acted like an idiot. And he goes, that's great. Are you here for a couple days? I said, yeah, I am. He goes, we'll tape tomorrow. Do you need anything? And I taped. I didn't know how things went, but I taped a strip of shows, 5 shows. They do it in one day. We did 3 before lunch.
Now, for those of us here that don't know the show Make Me Laugh, it's a very bizarre setup. Could you explain to the audience the setup that a comedian goes through with Make Me Laugh?
You had 1 minute to make somebody laugh, and for every second they didn't laugh, they won money. It's like hard enough to make somebody laugh anyhow. Now you have an audience that's paid not to laugh.
But tell the audience where the person is and where you are.
They sit in a chair, not unlike one of the chairs on The Voice. They sit in one chair in the middle of the room, and there are 3 comics, so it was me, me, Gallagher, Pat Cooper, yeah, and Franklin Ajay. We're on that first show, and so one at a time, we each have a minute. We go up to the chair and stand within a foot from this person who's standing there, not to, and a celebrity guest. My celebrity guest was Dr. Joyce Brothers. You know, and why are you laughing at that? I was so excited to see Dr. Joyce. I'm a kid from Toronto. I had only seen her on the Dinah Shore show and Merv Griffin, and now I am trying to make Dr. Joyce Brothers laugh. I felt like there was no higher place to be in show business. I'm in fucking Hollywood on the same lot where they're doing Solid Gold in another building, and got my glove over my head in front of Dr. Joyce Brothers. I have made it, people. But anyway, and they were paying me scale. I was gonna get $200 a show. Can you imagine that? $200, I could not imagine that.
Hey everybody, it's Barry Katz, and I wanted to talk to you about Blueprint for Success. This is a community that I put together during the pandemic to help all artists of every walk of life in the entertainment business. No matter where you are in that part of this journey, it's designed to help you. There are podcasts with people that will inspire you, like Kevin Hart, Judd Apatow, Bill Burr, that you can't find anywhere else but on this program that I've interviewed, to times where we get to talk to executives in the business that you would never have access to tell you what you need to hear and to answer your questions, to all sorts of different videos and master classes designed to help you get to the promised land. That's what the Blueprint for Success is. Doesn't matter whether you want to be a stand-up comedian, a sketch performer, a podcaster, an actor, an actress, director, writer, social media person, whatever you want to be. I've been doing this for 40 years. I've had the honor and been humbled to represent people like Chappelle, Wanda Sykes, Louis C.K., Dane Cook, and probably over 20 other people who went from a studio apartment to being a multi-millionaire and a household name. And I want that for you, and I wanted to take the time with this program to be able to help you on your way there, to get there and to heighten and increase the trajectory of your career. Blueprint for Success is the way to go. I'm proud to be a part of this program, and I'd be proud to have you to be a part of it too.
So it was like $200 a show. I was gonna take 5 shows in one day. I was gonna make $1,000, which is still a big amount of money, for doing what? For doing what I was expelled from school for doing what everybody was not my friend for doing what I got yelled at for doing what I got punished for. I was in sunny California on a lot getting $1,000 cash for that. And it was just so mind-blowing and so not real. I'm not trying to make it funny. It was amazing. So I did that.
How did you do?
You know what? I felt like it was bad. I didn't make a lot of people laugh. What I learned was it was better not to make people laugh, because somebody would walk out and do one thing, they'd do a burp, and somebody would laugh, and then that person didn't win the money, and the comic would go back sometimes and go, I got him, and made him laugh. I felt a little bad that I didn't make people laugh. I wasn't really competing, because I still didn't feel like I was in the business, but the more they didn't laugh, the more screen time you got. And ultimately, it's about the people watching at home rather than that one person there. So the more screen time, if people at home are laughing, that's really all that matters. It really, they got more Howie Mandel than if I walked out on 5 seconds and somebody just cracked up in the first minute, right?
You know what's interesting about what you said?
I feel like now I'm on Make Me Sleep.
This man is wide. He's going to jog around the building.
He retired from sleeping.
This is interesting because you'd only been on stage like maybe 10 times.
10, 20 times.
And you're sitting on a panel with the legendary Pat Cooper. The guy was like unbelievable.
Right.
Gallagher, who, for what anybody wants to say about Gallagher, he was a guy who had half of his material was absolutely brilliant and half was made for like state fairs. But he'd been working a lot, he was brilliant, and Frankel Najai, who's one of the most brilliant comedians I've ever seen, and now has a huge career in Australia, and you're the young guy. So tell our audience how you feel when you're sitting around a green room or a thing with all people who are at a higher level than you, and conversely, tell me how you feel when you're in a room with a lot of people where you're the elder statesman.
Well, that's every day now. I'm the elder statesman. Pointed that out at the beginning of this podcast. But I didn't think about that. I just think, wow, everything to me, and there aren't a lot of things really even today that aren't continually wow. I have the same. It's weird, but I have the same feelings today as I had then. These are people that I had seen on television. I'd never been on a set. I'd never seen a TV camera. I'd never seen lighting. I was just in awe. And by the same token, even today, and this is going to be hard to believe, but I swear to you it's true, I'm in awe of, as you pointed out, at 60 years old, that I'm sitting in a room now talking about the things that I did. This doesn't really seem like it's not the path that's drilled into all of us culturally. And that's the problem. The problem is that we all have a path, and you don't need a path. You make the path. You don't follow a path, you make a path. But the point is, we all have expectations of what we're going to do. We all have plans. And what I've seen in my 60 years, and I'm not talking about strictly show business, is if you create a path for yourself, then basically paths are delineated by walls. There are two sides to a path. If you're in this open field of life, and you let life take you in the directions that it's supposed to take you in, or if you're open to that, amazing things will happen. And I'm still, to this day, in awe. You talked about at the end of my introduction that I sit on AGT. First of all, number one, every day that I show up at America's Got Talent, I'm amazed that that's a job. I did spend many years, getting people to try to like me, to laugh at me, to buy tickets and come and see me. And now I'm paid to sit and watch other people. It doesn't really seem like a job. I'm not doing anything different. This is my 7th season on the show, and I've said this numerous times. The first 3 seasons, I watch everything incessantly. I never missed an episode. And now they pay you, and I'd sit there with my friend or my wife and go, oh my God, this is out of tune, or this is great, or this is amazing. And now they pay me to do what I was doing alone at home on the couch in my underpants is now a job where you have to wear pants and take a check. And when you see somebody come out on stage for the first time, and maybe I have the empathy because this is what I did, but I see that when they walk out at the Dolby Theater, or they walk out wherever they walk out, and regardless of what they're gonna do, I could look into their eyes and see my eyes when somebody said, ladies and gentlemen, Howie Mandel, and I had no idea what to expect. And the lights hit me for the first time at Yuck Yucks. And I go, oh my God, I've just, Alice in Wonderland. I've just stepped through the looking glass. This is a whole new world. And these are people that have been singing maybe at the Thanksgiving table, or maybe doing something in their room, or they don't have a lot of, and then they walk out and there's a theater, and there's TV cameras. And then they do something, and they don't know what to expect, but the response is always a surprise, And when they connect, that moment that they connect and they're doing what they do, and their passion is accepted by other people, by humanity, by this world, there is no better. I think that's why the show is number one, because all of us as humans, have aspirations. Maybe we don't know what they are, but we aspire to do something that we're excited about, to do something that is going to bring us happiness, to do something that other people will appreciate. And when you see that happen right in front of you, it is so amazing, and I feel in awe that now I'm witness to it. Now I could be a small cog in the wheel when that little 12-year-old girl who now has over 300 million hits on YouTube, Grace Vanderwall, and if you haven't seen her, go see her. And every big record producer has called me and say, how come, Simon's got her tied up, but she was 12 years old and she writes her own songs, and she came on and she sang, I watched her life change in front of me. And I hit a golden buzzer, and that golden buzzer moment is now, over 300 million strong on the internet. It's just amazing. It is amazing. Everything is amazing. Being here is amazing.
Well, I just think that, in the Comedy Store, that producer made your dream come true, and now you get to make other.
But everything does. What you realize is we're all connected. We are all connected. You don't know who is inspired or hears something in this podcast or something that you say, or somebody that finds you and does something. If we become as a being very insular and driven and myopic, and we don't really share, and we don't open up, and we're not out there, then you can't. It's the only thing that makes us. The world is not one person, and as too many of us make their world is just them. They can't get it.
Now, when you pressed that golden buzzer, and I saw that, and it was like literally, I still get goosebumps thinking about it.
Maybe it's a rash. First place I go from goosebumps is infection or virus. Maybe I should.
But obviously, 300 million views, Simon contract. Grace knows that it's happening. When was the first time where you went home, sat in the fetal position on the couch, and said, I'm never going to do carpet sales again. I am a stand-up comedian. I am an entertainer.
I've never said that, but I've been in the fetal position going, I'm never doing stand-up again. I have.
Was that after the orgy?
No, that was after I was Diana Ross's opening act. And they hated me. And the audience had come to see Diana Ross, number one. They had come to see music, number two. They didn't want to see comedy. They didn't want to, an opening act is supposedly there to warm people up. I just made them angry and want Diana Ross more. And when you're playing at a place like Caesar's Palace and there's that much hatred, and I've heard it from my friends who do cruises, when you're on a cruise and it doesn't go well, but then you're locked in the cell with the audience who hates you. So it's not like you go good night and go away. You live with these people. There's one story. I got a call to do a fundraiser for Holocaust survivors. And I thought, I'm Jewish. Why would I say no? And here, the good thing is they're going to pay you. They want you to do fundraisers. They pay you because they use that to sell tickets to, So, and not only that, it's in town, it's in LA, and it's at the Beverly Wilshire Hotel. So I go, okay, this is great. I'm doing something for my community, I'm doing something for my culture, I'm doing something at home, and I'm gonna bring home a check. So I go with Rich Thurber, who is my road manager.
Who was very instrumental in getting you here, and I thank you very much.
Okay, good. Thank you. And this will come into play later. He's not Jewish. Okay, we go into the Beverly Wilshire Hotel. He's checked out the place. I have a room upstairs where I can go get ready, go get dressed. I go upstairs to the hotel and I'm getting dressed, and he goes to check out the room to make sure the room's okay. First thing is he comes up and he says, they put on an opening act and I don't think it's going over well. And I go, well, they didn't even tell us it's an opening act, because I would like, an opening act is fine, but you want to know if it's a comic, maybe he or she is covering the same area you're covering, so you just want to be apprised of what's going on and be able to read the crowd. He goes, and it's not going over well. And I go, well, what is it? And he says, it's a guy, an older man, singing in Hebrew, cutting bread. And it was really, if you're not Jewish, it was just a prayer over bread. It's called a hamotzi. This was not an opening act. It's not. But he didn't know. He thought this is the worst f***ing act I've ever seen in my life. And it's not going over well. He didn't get a laugh, but he got a room full of amen. So anyway, the adversity, as he's learned, it works for me. So they had on the stage, it's a room not unlike this. They had a podium where speakers were previous to me, and they had a piano, and he knew you don't have to move them. Leave the piano, leave the podium, he'll have fun with the mess that is on the stage. And then I will, and they had asked for my bio before my biography.
The one that I read?
Well, this reminded me, you reminded me of the story, because the introduction, so they said, we just want your bio for the introduction, and I said, okay, so he sent over a bio. So I go downstairs, and I look through the curtain, and I think, oh my God, this is a show, it was for Holocaust survivors. I thought I'm raising money for Holocaust survivors. I didn't realize the audience are Holocaust survivors. Oh. The two reactions I've gotten on this entire broadcast was somebody didn't wash their hands after they peed and doing comedy for Holocaust survivors. But anyway, the youngest person in the room had to be an 8 in front of them. Some people were in wheelchairs, there were IVs. These people looked like they had been through. Anyway, I say to the lady who booked me, when am I on? And he says, you're on, we're gonna do a little quick fundraising before you. The rabbi flew in from Israel, he's gonna speak, and then he's gonna bring you on. I go, okay. So this rabbi, who has no idea who I am, he's from Israel, walks on, and these people are sitting there. And he starts with, in 1939, in a small town in Poland, Nazis come into this town and they shoot 5 Jewish children in the head. The bodies of these young children lie in the streets. We must never forget. And you hear the sniffling of the crowd because people live, there are probably people in this room from that town. Not this room, that room. And he says in 1940, a small town in Romania, a troop of Nazi soldiers come in, grab 30 Jewish women, rape every one of them, pour gasoline on them, set them on fire. All dead. We must never forget. In 1941, all the Jewish men from this one particular town are taken out of the town. They dig a trough. They're all shot. They all fall into the trench and are buried. All dead. We must never forget. And this goes on. The crying in the room is unbelievable and has hit a level. In 1979, this young man came to... How do you attach my career to the fucking Holocaust? The only reason I came up before you finished my introduction, I didn't want you to segue into Orlando or anything that has happened recently, because I've been through that before. And they're crying. They're crying, and he goes through my whole bio like Barry did, but attached to the Holocaust. There's no difference between the Holocaust and my introduction. And he goes, and now Howie Mandel. And he doesn't pronounce my name right, and I walk on to crying. Yes, and I walk on to crying. Go, how is everybody tonight? You know, and there's just these old people in silence and sniffling, staring at me, and I do 3 or 4 jokes. And the one response I get from in the middle of the room, an elderly man goes, "Fat!" If you're not Jewish, that's not yay. You know? And at the same time, he's in a wheelchair. He turns, he's walking up, but he doesn't walk. He's been through the Holocaust, horrible things have happened to this man. He takes his wheelchair, which has not been oiled in maybe 3 decades, and he's leaving. Not quickly. You hear the wheelchair going through the room. What is this? This is supposed to be funny? And all you hear is the squeaking of the wheels. And I don't know how to, I'm just standing up there saying, I'm sorry if I offended anyone. You people have been persecuted enough. I don't know why they're putting you in front of me. And then I try something else. And I say, you know, my wife has sent me out the other day for feminine hygiene products, and a woman yells, "Do you know how long it's been since anybody here has had a feminine hygiene product?" No. And then, you know, so I'm standing in between the podium and the piano, and then I go, "Here's something, maybe," and then some guy starts hitting the table with his spoon, and I go, "What is it? What is it?" And he goes, "Enough with the jokes, sing already." Nobody here knows who the this is like 4 years ago. This is not at the beginning of my career. I thought I had a career. Anytime you think you have a career and your head is big, you have Steve Levine book you something. No, he's a dear friend and a wonderful guy, but and it makes for a great story. So then Rich goes, oh, I look to the side, and the woman who booked me is making the signal, like, wrap it up, wrap it up. They're very tired. I'm thrilled to wrap it up. I wrap it up. And I run, and Rich goes, "I'm sorry, man, I'll get you out of here." I staked it out. So Rich and I, we run backstage, we run through the kitchen, I run up the stairwell, I run down the hall, I'm doing the back way, I pass the garbage, I pass the shipments coming in. We go up 3 stairs, we're on a ramp, he's got a door waiting for us, it's like a freight elevator, the door's open, we run in, the door's closed, I am sweating, I just feel kind of humiliated. We press a button, Rich presses a button, it goes, it's a freight elevator, so there's doors on both sides, it goes up 2 floors. The door opens on the other side, me and Rich are standing there. The whole audience with the guy in the wheelchair standing in front, the door opens, I'm standing there, he looks at me, he goes, "Fat!"
I want to ask you about something that a lot of artists go through, and it's a really fascinating thing. You had your own talk show, which, by the way, I loved, and I have a Johnny Carson cue card that you had one of the writers there found backstage that gave to me.
I have one in my office. I have the one that says Bette Midler, Robin Williams. I took his from the last day. I got the pile of cue cards because when I did a talk show, I asked to do it at Burbank Studios, where everybody who's in comedy, which you're probably going to ask me about after, but the Johnny Carson set. I got the cue cards from his last show, his monologue and everything, and I framed them and put them in my.
It's amazing, and I have one in my office. The last Spectre joke I have, and it's like, and that's a big part of my life. And that show I love. But when you took the show, I thought to myself, this is probably the riskiest thing that he's ever done, because when you're a comedian and you put your name on a show, your name is on a show like Roseanne or anything like that, Cosby. You put your name on a show. If it's successful, it's the greatest thing in the world, and you can do so many great things. But as you saw, even Louis C.K., if you were sitting down next to me, his first television show was scripted was Louis, and it was on HBO. It got canceled. It took 6 years before he got back on the air again. You did the show. It was a great show. You had your name on it, but it didn't succeed. How did you reinvent yourself, and how did you come back after knowing you had a show with your name on it as a talk show host? How did you come back from that in a big way?
Well, I don't think about that. Maybe I'm different than most, but the truth is I say yes. And if you want to be negative, most things don't succeed. Most answers to questions are no. If you want to give up, then that's it. There's not more responsibility in putting your name on something. If it's your show, it's your show. There isn't more responsibility in, I could have this could be a horrible podcast where I'm incoherent and I don't make sense, or I piss somebody off, or I do something that is considered politically incorrect in these days of social media, then there could be a firestorm. You don't know what starts a firestorm. If you're Gilbert Gottfried and you make one little tweet and you lose a whole campaign. So anything can explode in your face. So when you're given an opportunity like a talk show, you say yes. And when it fails, I'm not saying it doesn't hurt, and I'm not saying it's not devastating, but you make a conscious decision to move on. And when you move on, if you continually move on, things unveil and unfold and things happen. If you don't want to move on, you won't move on. We all make the decision. People aren't luckier than other people. You are really in control of your own destiny, of whatever it is you do. It's just don't give up. How hard things are is not an issue. It's how you handle the tough times. We all have crosses to bear. We all have things to, I talk about mental health. We all have, illnesses. We all have things in our life, financial, and it's how do you deal? We're all gonna get knocked down. We're all gonna get knocked out. But how are you gonna get up and how are you gonna deal with that? And that's what life is. Life is just getting up. And when you decide not to get up, you're knocked out. If you want to get up, something's going to happen. I was going to quit show business the day before they offered me Deal or No Deal. I had been knocked out and I got pummeled so hard. I was so weak mentally with show business that I gave up, and I wasn't going to do it. And when I got phoned to do Deal or No Deal, and I don't know if anybody remembers the time, like in 2005, no comedians were doing game shows, So to get a call when I told my wife, fuck it, I don't like this, that's it, I don't have the strength to be judged anymore, I don't have the strength to be on a public stage anymore, to be humiliated,
And I want to
be
share
judged.
something. I want to share something here. As a comedian, when you take a job as a game show host, it's the toughest decision to make.
No, well, let me just say that.
Yeah.
So when I got the call, we want you to host a game show host was the lowest rung. It was a punchline to a joke, especially for a comedian.
And if you fail as a game show host, you're rarely going to get another job.
No, but even, I'll tell you something, my fear was succeeding as a game show host. Succeeding as a game show host at that time, that's the punchline. That was, you didn't want to be, there's nobody I could put in that, but to host a game show, you don't think, the rungs of show business, the hierarchy of show business that people put on, you're a movie star. And people put these hierarchies up there, and when you think about it, comedian isn't even way up there. Jerry Seinfeld said it best, he got an award once at one of these festivals, and he said, we're not given, if you think about the actor, which I am, and I try, what does an actor do? An actor gets picked up, he doesn't drive himself to work, or herself to work. He goes into a room where somebody hands you and helps dress you, combs your hair, and puts makeup on you. Then you walk into another room where they put a piece of tape on the floor and they say, I need you to walk from there and stop the tape. And when you stop the tape, here's some words I need you to say. And you'll say those words and then the director will cut, do it again, no. And you'll do it again, no, cut, do it again, no, do it again, no, do it again. And then they do it from another angle. Then they'll sit in editing and they put it together. And then we all go, fucking brilliant! And they get an Academy Award. A comedian sits alone in a room, writes words, creates a character, shows up, does what they want, and needs so much more from an audience. They need to elicit, because if it's quiet, they need to elicit laughter, so you have to find buttons that relate to so many different people. But we're the clowns. Even on the Johnny Carson show, we closed the show, even with Johnny Carson. And sometimes we weren't even, thought of enough to come over and talk. Donnie Most, who was the third tier on Happy Days, who was reading somebody's lines, would be a guest tonight on the Tonight Show, and they'd ask him questions and what his life was. A comedian, it was a big deal for Johnny to say, hey, come here, sit down. I got asked to go to the couch, and we were thrilled. But we're always the lowest rung. So beyond that, the game show host was considered a low rung, because all you're doing is you're reading questions. What are you doing? What's your talent? What is it? So when I got asked to do a game show, I said, you know what? My career is over. This is the nail in the coffin of my career. And I was so depressed and so out of sorts that my wife said, you gotta do it. You just gotta do it. If for nothing else, just because you can't do nothing. Because the last person I want to spend time with is me. And I cannot be idle. I cannot spend time with myself. So I went and did it, and was so embarrassed by what I believed it was. I'll tell you what it was. So when I took the job.
Now you also took the job. People, when you came out the first time and people saw you, you had reinvented your whole look. No one saw you that.
I didn't. I mean,
I know, but nobody really knew.
Right, because I was, my whole career was Steve Levine booking me across the country in smaller theaters and smaller clubs and not selling tickets. Michael Gelman, who did Kathy and Regis at the time, would let me come on and do, hidden camera pieces, and Jay would let me do hidden camera pieces, but I wasn't really out there. And when I said I'll do the show, I said, how do I shine in this? How can I shine? And they allowed me to hire comedy writers because my template, I went back, the first person I could find was Groucho Marx, who had done that. He had made a great game show. So I said, so we'll write some comedy, we'll do. So we did. We sat and we wrote comedy, and I'll come out, because there was nothing in our game. There was no trivia, there was no skill or anything. And I'll never forget this. And then I walked out, and I said, ladies and gentlemen, welcome to Deal or No Deal. And our first guest was Karen Van. I'll never forget her name. I've done 500 episodes, and I'll never forget her name, because this was a changing point in my career, in my life. And I said, tell me about yourself, Karen. And Karen was a mother of 3. She had no health insurance. She had never owned a home, and she was from someplace in middle America. The 3 kids were sitting there, and I had some jokes that I wanted to do. But when you look at somebody who's never been on a television set, there was a glaze in her eyes, and she wasn't listening. And I remembered when I gave her the first offer, it felt like, how when you're talking to somebody, and you feel like they're not listening, like you're doing a podcast and the guy in the front row's sleeping. You're kind of aware of that. And I was more aware that if Karen would take $50,000 home tonight, Karen's life, and more importantly, Karen's children's life, would change forever. And I got this great feeling of like it's my responsibility to make sure that she walks out of here with money. And I got very scared that if I start doing jokes and pull the focus into me being funny, that she won't listen and she'll play badly. So my cadence changed. That's why it wasn't just about the shaved head, but my cadence changed, because I would say, Karen, the offer is $200,000. And it was like, are you listening to me, Karen? Or do you go for a chance at $1 million? I was just trying to take the fucking money. It was not about jokes. It was not about anybody liking me. It was not about anybody laughing at me. But that empathy came out. I was so embarrassed at the end of the show. I had done this. It became about this. I didn't use it. The writers were backstage. They go, you didn't use the joke. I go, there was a real person with 3 fucking kids standing there who's going to lose money. They've asked me 1 million times to do Hollywood Game Night. I can't go do that show because I'm afraid that if I try to be silly and you walk out with $200 less because you laughed at my joke and got the wrong answer, or I brought you down, I can't do that.
You notice the correlation with your career?
No, wait. So I go and I left the country. I went to Turks and Caicos when it aired. I didn't want to be here when it aired. I was so embarrassed. And then I flew, and they sent me the ratings. The ratings went through the roof. The next night, the ratings went through the roof. And it landed back in Miami. And within 30 seconds, people are going, deal or no deal? And it was the biggest success that I've had to date, with all the comedy, with all anything. And I didn't want to do it. I was humiliated by it. I didn't try to be funny. I just wanted Karen Van and anybody there to walk out and change their lives, because I felt so responsible. So what is the correlation that you see?
First night at Yuck Yucks. You don't know what you're going to do. You sort of know what you're going to do. You're not going to do anything, but you go on and you're like, what? And you do this character that is created right there at Yuck Yucks that launches your career. And the biggest thing in your life professionally, you create the character that you're doing on stage because of Karen Van.
And the other correlation is both of them were real. And the what was nervous and being unprepared. And Karen Van, it was just Howie Mandel wanting to. She didn't. She ended up winning $5,000 out of. Not only that, she came back because we did a recap of what people did. You know what she did? She bought fucking tits. She had the tits. Wow. They were nice. I mean, I didn't, but she did. I'm making a mountain out of a molehill, but they were really beautiful mountains out of little. But anyway, the truth is that there is a lesson to be learned, and I always have to revert back and be reminded myself, and I'm surrounded by great people like my wife and my manager and my friends who keep me in line. It's really easy to overthink everything, and it's really easy to have a plan. And you know, promises are broken, plans change direction. We really don't have a lot of control. You know, we're such a small part of this universe. You got to enjoy it, you got to go with the flow, and amazing things will happen. And amazing doesn't have to be notoriety, amazing doesn't have to be fame, amazing doesn't have to be funny. Amazing is just life.
And that's one of the things you're talking about, which is so great about you with America's Got Talent, because I recognize it, maybe a lot of people don't, maybe they do. You're on the show, you're doing your thing, and it's really, really great, and the camaraderie is perfect, and everything happens, and then you get the announcement, Howard Stern is coming on the show. Now, I think to myself, if I'm you, I'm thinking, okay, I know my place on the show. I know what I'm doing here. And now this guy's coming in, and this is the king of all media. This guy is Howard fucking Stern.
Right.
How am I going to figure out how to be what I am when this guy is there and
I
he's
don't
like
think
bigger
like
than
that.
life? And then what happens is, what's amazing, what you just said, is how you navigate when things are thrown at you and all the different judges, and 7 years later, you are still like the most powerful force. And when I saw you press that golden buzzer for that young girl, I tell you, I'm embarrassed, but I was crying.
But so was I. Well, don't be embarrassed. I think that we're all, there's no difference between anybody. You know, well, we're all incredibly different, but we're all human beings. And if we could tap into even our own emotions and our own humor and our own, that's how you gotta live. So I don't think, I was excited that Howard was coming. I'm a friend of Howard's. I've done his show for years and years, and I don't think about how am I gonna fit in. Listen, when I do think about how I'm gonna fit in, or I think about a show, I always go to the bad place. And the bad place is, I'm about to be fired. This is the last job I have. Nobody likes me. I just, that's where I go. If I analyze, I can tell you everything that's going to go wrong, everything that's not good, everything I don't want to analyze, because that's, as somebody who suffers from obsessive compulsive disorder, I'm obsessive, I'm compulsive. I will fixate on something, and usually not anything positive, and I never think I do well. I never think it's good, but I also understand I have another plane of psyche where I just go, just do it, just go for it. And that's why I'll go back to my analogy at the beginning, the roller coaster. Life is that roller coaster. I don't know what's over that hill, but it's a lot of fun.
1,
2,
2,
3,
5,
5, 6.
6 degrees of separation.
All right, 6 degrees of separation. I'm going to name some names. Tell me the first thing that comes to your mind. Anything could be a word, a sentence, a little story.
Right.
All right. David Letterman.
I love David Letterman. I thought he really turned the talk show format on its ear. I didn't do it for years. I got banned from that show. I love awkward moments and uncomfortable moments. And on these talk shows, conversely, you've given me, that's my word for the day now. They like things to be very planned. And I remember going on that show in 1982 at NBC at 30 Rock, and my second thing that I said to him is, I said, David, thank you for having me in New York. I have a friend here in New York. Can I just take a moment to say hello can I say hello to him? And he goes, go ahead. So I got up and left. And the thing is that and he never invited me back for years, for like a decade.
Sharon Osbourne.
Love her. Sharon Osbourne is not only a friend and a co-judge, but she's also a neighbor. And one of the most she's such a dichotomy, because she's one of the best moms and family people, but one of the most outrageous, weird, wonderful, fearless, funny, crazy people I know.
Sesame Street.
I'm on it. I did it. And I don't know why it always scares me. I find Sesame Street scary. But I just think, I raised my kids talking to them normally, and I think you need to talk to them, but there's a cadence that always, I think Sesame Street could be a great horror movie. It's brought to us by the letter D. There is a cadence that is really scary. And when I read that Elmo in Times Square was being inappropriate, I thought, yeah. How come they didn't see that before? Everybody was tickling him, he started tickling everybody else.
Bobby.
Bobby is a
character very near and dear to me. I'm trying to relaunch.
I'm trying to relaunch it. So we're talking to people, it's kind of exciting. I want to relaunch it. Bobby was a character, was actually a voice that started originally from choking on a piece of cake when I was 11. It's not funny, I was choking. And I talk about it in my act. And then I use that voice for Skeeter on The Muppet Babies, which is the same voice. And for Gremlins, the same voice. Gizmo, same voice. I have other voices, but I didn't, Animal and Bunsen Honeydew. It's a great character. When we did Bobby's World, I had again, another surprise. My friends, Jim Stahl and Jim Fisher, who had a deal at Fox, from Second City, they had a deal at Fox Children's Network, called me and said, let's do Bobby as a character for Saturday morning. And I said, I don't think I have a family show. But we started sitting down and telling real stories about ourselves, what happened to our kids, and that became, it ended up in 65 countries, and we were talking and telling very relatable stories. And we feel, we're all children. We just become really old, but we're still children. We're always somebody's child, and I think we end up putting on this air of adulthood, and it's refreshing to find a character and a voice where I don't have to put on that costume, because Bobby really thinks those are the first things that come into our mind. We go, no, that's silly, because it's really this.
Simon Cowell.
Love him. I found out how surprisingly funny he is. He's ironic, he's funny, he's smart, he gets it, and he's brave. That idea of being brutally honest to somebody's face, I think he changed the face of how we watch television today. People said he was mean, but he was brutally honest. He wasn't any meaner than anybody in this room was on their couch. He's saying all the things you say. And up until that time, the meanest thing that ever happened to anybody trying anything on television was a gong, followed by politeness of the judges. But these are people who went on television sometimes without any talent. They're adults for the most part, and he was honest with them. But he also has a real good sense of humor, a real good sense of timing, and it's not an accident when somebody has that kind of success. He's got 5 names right now on the top Billboard charts. He's got the biggest show in the world. America's Got Talent is the biggest format worldwide, works everywhere, from Italy's Got Talent to this is the only country where it really didn't work. And you know why?
Because it's Canada.
Not because it's Canada, but you know why? Because I'm proud of Canada, and I'm proud to be Canadian. They were too nice. They were too nice. And that's and not honest. And it's really hard because we love our country and we love our people. It was really hard for them to say, when you had a Canadian native Indian person from Saskatchewan doing Inuit poems. In Canada, we go, oh my God, that was tremendous. That was really heart-moving and tremendous, when the truth is, where the are you going to sell that? Who's going to listen to a native Saskatchewan poem? Where are you going to sell that shit out? But we can't say that on Canadian TV.
I just have to ask you one more name, the late Robin Williams.
Loved him. So, that makes me emotional, because it kind of shows you the bridge, this long bridge between comedy and tragedy. Nobody gave more joy, nobody was more inspired, nobody created more laughter than somebody who had such a tragic he brings about a story that I told in my book, and I'll just tell it really quickly right here. Blake Edwards told me this story about a guy who goes to a psychiatrist, and he's incredibly depressed, so depressed that he's going to kill himself, he's going to end it. He's in the fetal position, in tears, in the corner of the room. And he's been going to he goes, this is it, I can't do it. And the doctor said, you know, I've tried the medication, and the medication hasn't worked. And I've tried hypnotism hasn't worked. And I've tried therapy, and it hasn't worked. And the only thing that I believe that can work, the only thing I have left is laughter. And as luck would have it, the circus has come to town, and Hemar the clown is a renowned clown who, in this circus, and he actually holds up the whole circus, people have actually laughed themselves. They couldn't get air to pass out. He elicits such laughter, and anybody knows that laughter is the best medicine. If you have not, in the year you've been coming to me, you have not had any laughter, any smile in your life, so much so that this is the darkest place, you are about to die. So what I'm recommending to you is to go sit tonight and see, I'm giving you 2 tickets, go sit and see Hemar. And I promise you, we've tried everything, but if you just laugh, if you just see Hemar, it'll bring you to a lighter place. And he said, doctor, through his tears. The doctor says, what? And he said, I am Hemar.
All right, your proudest moment in show business.
Barry Katz podcast. Doesn't get better than this.
You gotta have something.
That I'm in it. Life is moments. I can't look at one moment, and that's how I don't look. You know, if I look at one moment, I have so many joyous moments. No one's better than the other, because then your connotation is that everything is less than that moment. And my proudest moment in show business probably hasn't happened yet. Any moment I have in show business, I am proud. The fact that somebody has asked me here today, the fact that maybe somebody's tuning in right now and listening to this podcast is amazing. And just as amazing as looking out the window and seeing 7,000 people walk out and 7,000 people walk in. You know, and 2 nights ago, I was sitting at the Dolby Theater in Los Angeles watching a crowd roar, and 15 million people watch live on television. And sitting here in this room talking to you about the career, they're all great moments, and they're all unique, and they're all different. And I never want any of these moments to stop. So the next moment is my proudest moment. The fact that there is going to be a next moment, I'll be proud if there is.
Your biggest disappointment in show business and how you used it to fuel your career to the next level.
I was offered to be a host of a game show, and we talked about how it fueled me to the next level. That was, I was so embarrassed by that phone call.
Got it. Last question. What advice do you have for the young carpet salesman in a small town somewhere in the world who has no idea what's about to happen, but you've seen so many talented people on America's Got Talent, you've seen yourself. What advice do you have for everybody? How to get to the next level?
I always give the same advice, and it's Nike's advice, and that's just do it. And the point is, just do it, any place, anywhere, and it doesn't have to be comedy. It doesn't have to be show business. Just do it. You know, the most amazing thing to me is, as a stand-up comic, I tour all over. We'll land in Montana. Some guy in his 50s will pick us up to take us to the theater, and he'll go, what's California like? You know, I've never been on an airplane. I grew up here in Montana, and I'm thinking, if you really want to know, just do it. Just get on the plane, just go. You know, somebody said, you know, 99% of success is just showing up. If you don't show up, it's not going to happen. So just do it.
Howie, you did it, man. Thank you so much. You've been amazing. I'm so grateful.